Hey YouTube,
Hey.
I'm Jesse.
I'm Courtney.
And this is our third episode, and this is the turning point. We've been talking about how we're going to go about this video for a long time, and finding all the information, what's valid, what's not valid, and ultimately, we're not going to sit here and talk till we're blue in the face about how you can cope and how you can love your spouse and support them and all this sort of stuff. Like, what you're likely, if you're watching this video, you're in a living hell right now, and I'm sure your spouse and you would both agree. And so that's a great place to start, is that porn is ruining your lives, you're both not happy, and something's got to change. The things that helped me was my wife sat me down one day and said, hey, we are not going to continue on like this. She couldn't take it, and ultimately, if I looked down the road a few months, a few years in advance, I saw that this was going to end in destruction, that porn was going to destroy my marriage, my life, everything, and that even if I could rebuild it and start a new life and have a new wife, the same thing would happen. Okay, this is a cycle that will repeat itself for as long as you live until you deal with it. It's not something that will change if your situation or your environment changes or your relationship changes or your spouse changes. Porn will follow you and destroy you and hunt you down as long as you live, unless you turn the tide and you come back from this. And so the question you have to ask yourself, men and women, is, do you believe that you can come back from this? Because if you choose to believe that you can, you will. We're living proof of that. And I assure you, the comeback is awesome. As hard as it is, it's awesome. And once you're on the other side, you will never look back. And you will never even contemplate porn again, because it's not even close to what you experience when you experience true unconditional love and intimacy with your spouse. So,
yeah. You have to believe you can be free and completely free, and you have to believe that as the addict, and then the spouse has to believe, I know that you can be set free from this and completely free. And so what we're going to talk about, we, as promised, how to love your spouse and how to love yourself. I'm just going to do a few quick points that hopefully will help you guys out. So how to love your spouse is just, first instinct is to try and control the situation. When you find out that you're living with a porn addict, you want to instinctively do what you can to help them. So things like asking all the time, which comes across as nagging, putting passwords up, net nanny, taking away the computer, taking away the tablet, whatever, when you leave the house, that kind of a thing. None of that in our experience was fruitful. None of that was effective because
ultimately what that does is it just, in a man's heart, or a woman's whatever, whoever's experiencing that, is it's just going to create resentment, because ultimately you're changing a relationship from a trust, one to another relationship, to a parent to child, as in you can't be trusted, you have to be, you have to teach me that you can trust, that I can trust you. And what that does is it just causes bitterness and resentment to grow in the addict. And eventually it's just going to result in a relapse, and then you're in the exact same spot where you were before. And if you do any of these and experiencing any success with it, eventually it will fall apart, because an addict will always find a way.
Yeah.
If he has to find another computer, if he has to go out and buy a computer that he keeps secret somewhere, he will, she will. It's that's just the way it works with addiction, and it's sad.
Yeah. I tried to get Net Nanny or one of those systems, and I asked Jesse if I thought it would be helpful, and he said, I'll find a way, don't bother.
And most men will react very negatively if you try and bring that up, and it's for that very reason, that it just creates instant resentment and bitterness, which is not going to do anything to rebuild your relationship. So
what's going to be helpful, how to love yourself, is set boundaries.
Boundaries.
The most effective way that I loved myself was to say, I love you, but I also need to take care of me. And the way that, and our children, and the way that I'm going to do that is say, you need to make a choice. And so, like Jesse said at the beginning of the video, I sat him down and said, you can stay here, but you need to be done with the porn, and you can go away if you're not ready to deal with that yet. And so, basically, just sit your spouse down in a loving way and just say, I just need to know, do you really believe that you can be fully free from this addiction? And find out where they're at. And, if they don't believe that they can, then just, you need to set that boundary. Say, I need a healthy and a safe environment for me and for, if you have kids, for your kids. And just say, if you don't feel like you can be free from that,
some time apart is sometimes a very good thing, and don't call it anything. Don't call it a separation. Don't call it, whatever.
Oh, it's
just say, you're taking some time to be apart from me, to think about how important am I in your life? Can you live without me? Do you really want to plan a comeback and to overcome this and fall in love with your spouse again and go on to new heights and new wonderful things in life, or are you just going to quit? And so
the way
it's a huge question.
It is, and the way that they answer it, if they say no, obviously then you need to say, I'm going to set this boundary now, and this is how it's going to look. And then if they say yes, then you say, awesome, I do too. You need to affirm that in them and come to that place in your own heart where you believe this is not who they are, and they can totally be set free from this. And you're right there, their biggest cheerleader. And so the follow-up question is, okay, awesome. Now, how do you want to plan this comeback? Because let's do this. Like, we're a team.
It's something you do together.
And you just come alongside them. And this is how you love them. But in setting these boundaries and coming up with a plan together, this is also a way to, just rebuild that connection and intimacy. And
ultimately, in our situation, my wife had to be the catalyst and give me the ultimatum and say, hey, this is either going to end and we're going to restore love in our relationship, or ultimately it's going to just end in disaster anyways. So, by giving me that ultimatum and putting it in a context like that, I was able to think about it and
it was a
make the decision, as opposed to, all of a sudden one day she just stops adding the extra fuse to the bomb, and then it just explodes, and you're trying to recover from that, emotional, mental meltdown, breakdown of a relationship, all exploding at the same time. Or you can say, hey, this bomb's going to blow up one day, so let's just say, hey, right now, we're either going to cut this fuse together, or we're just going to have to
wait it out and clean up the mess.
Damage control. So, don't fool yourselves. That porn is going to destroy your life. It's going to destroy your marriage eventually. It's not sustainable. So you have to plan to either come back or to be beaten by porn.
All right. And this is such a huge topic. We've been getting tons of responses from people. Thank you so much. This was 10 years off and on struggle for us in our marriage. This is a huge topic. There's so much to talk about. So 3 videos is just not enough. We're going to keep going on this topic for another few videos. One of the big topics we're going to touch on is rebuilding trust in the relationship. So please stay tuned. Please subscribe to our channel if you're liking these videos, and share. Guys, you never know who needs to hear this message, who's struggling in this area. We just want to encourage everybody. So please share.
Don't forget, you have to believe it can be done. We are proof.
We believe in you.
Get 'em. See you next week.
Thanks, guys.